We're overthinking this. Baylor is going to beat Oklahoma State by 21 points tomorrow. Or will they?
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello there, Bears fans. Welcome to another episode of Locked On Baylor, brought to you by Mazda and part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your host, Cam Stuart, of ESPN Central Texas and the Cam Show on YouTube. Joining me today, of course, Peter M. Sousa. It is not that time of the month, just that time of the week. A Friday for Pete Sousa from Inside the 12 and ESPN and the Pete Sousa Show through Rogue Media Sports Network to join the show. We're going to talk about this Baylor-Oklahoma State matchup. Pete is going to soothe my nerves about why Baylor's still going to win this game. Then we're going to talk about, has Josh Hoover overtaken Sawyer Robertson? One list thinks so. And then, of course, because he's the host of Inside the 12, we will go through the biggest Big 12 games on the schedule this weekend and maybe who Baylor fans should be rooting for now that they're behind the eight ball in the Big 12 Conference Championship race through 1 week of Big 12 football. All that and more coming up on this episode of Locked On Baylor. Pete, you know I can get pretty anxious. I would say mostly with sports stuff, but pretty much exclusively with sports stuff. And this week, I'm getting anxious, man. Like
about Baylor and Oklahoma State?
Yeah. The 2021 thing is still getting to me, the Gary Patterson thing. But I remembered our conversation last week where I talked about West Virginia coming off a big win. And I was like, I like that plus 13.5 against Kansas. And you told me, don't do it.
No,
West Virginia sucks. And I did it anyway. And I lost money because they got their butts kicked in that game. So, Pete, I'm asking you to do it once again. Am I making too much of this Oklahoma State thing?
Look, there's a little bit of reason to be concerned because with Doug Meacham, apparently, like he's already kind of put the word out on the street, like Omar in The Wire, right? Like that he is going to. It's not Omar in The Wire, actually. It was who was it?
Did not. I haven't seen The Wire in like 10 years.
It was Avon, right? Yeah.
I watched it once.
Yeah. Avon Barksdale. So anyways.
What's his name?
What's the name? There was Idris Elba. That was Stringer. He was Stringer Bell. So it was Stringer Bell. Okay, I'm sorry. Let's get back on to that.
Let's go through all
I-35 here. So I do believe like apparently he's going to throw the football a lot more, like kind of embrace the air raid. That's at least what I've been hearing. And
has he watched Baylor play yet?
What? Maybe it sounds
okay. Well, I'd probably keep it on the ground, but hey, that teach their own.
But and honestly, like you would think that would be the move, but I think they're so desperate to change things up that this could be the move, right? And I think this is who Doug Meacham is, like in his DNA. And I think that Mike Gundy had kind of taken more of a pounding approach, so this is his chance, right? And I think the best thing you have going for you is Zane Flores has showed us who he is this year. So I'm just as comfortable if I'm a Baylor fan, I'm just as comfortable when he drops back to pass as I am with Sawyer Robertson on offense. It's kind of one of those deals. And honestly, I say that jokingly, but that's kind of why they're this bad. I just don't think they're very good. And at the end of the day, I don't think they have the athletes this year. I think eventually they'll get it back together. But I think at the end of the day, it's a 4-quarter football game. You can't just like sneak in a quick knockout blow and have the fight be called. Even if they get up early, Baylor will come back and outlast them. But I think that Baylor will win going away. I think Baylor's a good football team. I do.
Despite what some people hosting this podcast may think, or at least what it sounds like.
Well, just set your watch to it. Every late September, Dave Aranda's might get fired. Yeah. But you realize that some of you guys are kind of crying wolf now. I mean, it's like, and the table is, I think it's,
but it's something we can't control.
It is. And to what you've said,
we can't control if he gets fired.
No, of course not. But putting it out there in the ether and being negative certainly doesn't help. No. And this is where I come down on this, like from a logical perspective. If you look at Baylor's schedule, boy, it certainly looks pretty good. Now, things always change, but like you used to never really be able to go hide in the Big 12. The next 2 weeks, Baylor can kind of chill. I mean, on paper, you and I talking. Obviously, they're not going to think that way. But
Yeah.
Oklahoma State and Kansas State, you're going to be heavily favored in both those games.
You should win both those games.
Yeah, and you'll be heavily favored. Unless something goes crazy this weekend, you'll be heavily favored in both.
And the other thing, too, when you look at the schedule as a whole, like barring a catastrophic injury, this team should still be 8-4. You know, when you like Houston's difficult because of their defense, and Wegman's a good solid quarterback. I think he's shown himself well this year. And Utah will be tough. That's at home, and TCU's on the road. Those are your two toughest games right there.
TCU's the big one, right? Because you're probably going to be 4-2 when you roll into Fort Worth, and it's like, okay, now all the cards are on the table. And if you lose that game, then you're 4-3, and you're kind of like, man, this does kind of suck. You know, like, so that will be, that's the huge one, because I by no means I'm like, oh, Baylor should set the bar lower. I just think that this team, we're 4 games into the season. They have 2 losses, and whatever, good loss, bad loss, they're the 2 real formidable opponents. So I think we just need to hold out, calling for a guy's job.
And I think that's where it comes down to back myself up a little bit here, is like, you can think of a reason all the time, and we've thought about reasons every single year, right? It usually leads to some coordinator getting fired, right? Like there's always a reason. And some Baylor fans will definitely justify that. I just think I've gotten to a point where I'm like, I can't justify it anymore. You know, you as Bill Parcells famously said, you are what your record says you are. And at the end, that's why I'm like, look, this team should win 9 games. Like that's what I thought coming into I actually thought 10 coming into the season. I think they should win 9. And I don't like, I'm not like totally out on Dave Aranda getting there, by the way. I think that's something that got me maybe missed his troops. I didn't say it. I wouldn't be surprised if they got there.
Well, I would look, here's one of the things about Dave that drives fans nuts is that he's not as reactive, and he's just not like a hyperbolic guy, or just doesn't really obviously have that loud of a voice, right? Because he doesn't want to. But that same personality, that same personality trait, I think really keeps him, it blocks out a lot of the noise, dude. Like he's never like Dave Aranda. There's no chance that like Locked On Baylor or anything Pete Sousa ever says is coming across Dave Aranda's brow, unless somebody goes, so, and that is
the only, honestly, and the only person that would be, I think, would be like one of his kids. You know what I mean? Like, I think he's got a locker room in there that does not buy into it at all, which is good. Like, that's good. You know, as much as I want to hype up my own show, players and coaches should not be listening to my show. It's just, they shouldn't, you know what I mean? Yeah. At the end of the day, maybe that's, you know, growing up in a Bill Belichick world and where I grew up, but,
who was that? Was it Eve Meesey who used to listen?
Eve Meesey, yeah. He came up to me.
In the NBA, right?
Yeah, he came up to me during an availability. Like there was like 5 of us in there, and he came back and he goes, "Listen to your show every day."
That's awesome, dude.
And I literally said something like, "You sure that's a good idea, Eve?" Like, you know, something like that. I said like, "Sorry that you do that, Eve."
Yeah.
And I've heard some coaches that do it, and multiple
and there's a lot that tell you they don't and do.
It's not like a bad thing, but like I probably wouldn't do it if I was a coach. But
I would do everything in my power not to, but I think I would have some weak moments. I unless I was like very rigid about it.
Or Pete, or some moments where you've done something good. You know, like I've had coaches reach out to me after like a really big win, and like I'm praising them on the podcast and stuff. Yeah. Like I've had that as well. It's not all negative stuff. No. So, in fact, it's very seldomly negative stuff, which I think is probably a good thing, you know?
Absolutely.
So, anyway, before we get out of this particular segment, we got to look at this. This is the injury report for Oklahoma State. I know you can't really read all that. 17 guys are out of this game for the Cowboys, with another 5 either doubtful or questionable. That is nuts, man. That is crazy.
Wow.
So they were bad to begin with, and now they're going with worse players. And look, I mean, again, you can't really read the names, but that's what, 4 or 5 offensive linemen right in the middle there.
And I know look, and they've also lost recruits this past week, right? Like commits, like with the 1 4-star guy, and one kid from Waco too, as decommitted. So there's also doubt and dissension among those ranks. But I had no clue that this was that Man, that's bad. That's like a taxi squad.
Yeah, that's what it is. You got a practice
Yeah.
squad going out there. That's gonna be potentially dire. Good game, I will say. Good game for Baylor to get back on the ground. In this game last year, Sawyer threw the ball 18 times. Okay, I expect it's probably going to be fairly similar. It could be a great bounce back week for him, but I think they're going to keep it on the ground a lot. Dominic Richardson, Baylor great, just ripped apart his old team Oklahoma State last week for what, like 140 yards?
Yeah, it was like it was 150, I think.
I think that's right. I think it was 151. That could be a great sign for not only Bryson Washington, but Oklahoma homecoming true freshman Caden Knighton can finally see 20 yards of field ahead of him for the first time in his college career.
I think the Caden Knighton thing is like that guy has been thrust into action, and he has done an admirable job and has
absolutely
produced it sometimes, and it's been special. But I do think the Dawson Prendergast thing is like that to me hurts this team more than I thought it would.
Me too.
When it happened.
Me too. It's a good point, man. Like, not that he wasn't an important player. Like, we always believed that, right? But I didn't think it would kind of change how they run the ball. You know what I mean? Like, Bryson's numbers are good. He's still having kind of where he was projected last year, or what he was averaging last year, but
would move the line of scrimmage with him. It was kind of amazing when they gave him the football. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I was just
you're right. They're just not as effective running the ball. Like, you see the numbers and they're not that bad. But you're just like, it doesn't feel like they're establishing the run in any game, but this could be the game. This really could. We've also got to talk about the quarterback a little bit, Sawyer Robertson, because some people are starting to not believe anymore around this conference, how quickly things change. They like Josh Hoover better, but does Pete? We'll talk about that next on Locked On Baylor. But first, today's episode is brought to you by our good friends over at Mazda. You know them. You love them. They're moving the game forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds. They move culture. They keep moving the game forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward for me was that Michael Trigg touchdown to even up the game, man. That was so awesome. He's brought down basically at the 2-yard line, and Uncle Tim and who was the guy doing it with him? Not Denard Robinson, the guy who replaced him at Michigan, Devin Gardner. They were like, was that a touchdown? I don't think so. And I was like, no, he did it. Michael Trigg pulled the old Mike Winchell, but actually got it over the goal line. To me, that was the play. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Back with Inside the 12 host, Pete Sousa, here on Locked On Baylor. He also hosts the Pete Sousa Show, and you will hear him calling a Baylor game very, very soon here on your television screen. Can't wait for Pete to get that opportunity. But we've got to talk about a different team in purple that's not Kansas State. No hints there on what game he'll be doing. But we got to talk about Josh Hoover, who's a guy that we both liked in the offseason. We actually talked about him a lot. Not quite Sawyer Robertson, but we liked him a lot. Maybe that is starting to change a little bit. How about this new list up here? The Big 12 quarterback power rankings. And for the first time this year, Sawyer Robertson, not number one, sitting down there at number 2. The Hoove Dog has eclipsed him and sits number 1 on the list. Pete, you follow this conference better than almost anyone living right now. You've seen a lot of Josh Hoover both last year and this year. You've seen a lot of Sawyer Robertson. Is this a fair assessment here?
At this point in the season, for sure it is. And I think that things as we march forward could quite possibly change. I think that Sawyer Robertson is the more durable, and I hate to say this, but I don't hate to say this, but it's cliche. He just really passes the eye test. Josh Hoover, I feel like, has done a lot with a little less. And so I'm not saying that I don't believe in him, but if you put those guys up against each other, it's hard to believe that at some point Sawyer Robertson wouldn't emerge victorious, right? Again, we're talking these guys back and forth. Mind you, they are both 1 and 2 in the Big 12 for passing yards per game. I think Hoover's number 1, by the way, and in the country is number 1 with 333 yards a game. The dangerous thing about Josh Hoover, which I did not see coming, is his ability to create explosive plays. That was not something that I had foreseen becoming a consistent thing. And so far, 4 games into this season, he has been consistently able to get behind coverage, which makes him super scary. And his balls have been deadly accurate. So you have to give him the nod right now at this point in the season. But again, I always feel so good when Sawyer has the ball in his hands. Huh?
Yeah, I have to give him the nod.
Right now, yeah, right. We're 2 weeks or 4 weeks into the season. Yeah, it's still very early, but yeah, I mean, based on what I've seen so far, sure. Now, if I wanted to start a football program or an NFL franchise tomorrow,
that's the next question. Yeah.
Well, you can bet I'm taking Sawyer Robertson above anybody in this conference. No questions asked.
Okay, so by the way, just to bring up the point, yes, Josh Hoover leads the country, 333 yards per game. Sawyer Robertson at 330. So it's not a huge landslide or anything. Neither are most of the other numbers with him. So why, if you're going to start a team, are you going Sawyer?
Well, because I think overall he is the better quarterback. I like his measurables more. I like his moxie more. I have actually, maybe this is biased, but like, I think Josh Hoover and Sawyer Robertson are the same type of person, like heavy duty on the faith. Like,
absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. And I believe that helps just because in life, I think it relieves some of the pressure. And I think that their attitude is one that sort of breeds success leadership wise. So they're both the same in that regard. And I think it's so close that if Sawyer Robertson were to walk in this office alongside Josh Hoover, I'd be like, yeah, I'll take the guy with the taller guy, I'll take that guy.
Sure.
I'll take that guy. And so, and I worry a little bit about Josh Hoover's durability too. And Sawyer, I think, I don't know. I like his ability to play big time football in big time moments. We saw that a lot last year from him. Man. Yeah. We haven't seen that yet from Josh Hoover. So far, he's passed every test this year. But last season was more of a video game type year for him. Like, it was so neat to see what his numbers were every game, but they weren't winning a lot of big games, and he wasn't producing in huge moments. But the kid's got it, man. I mean, I love him. It's a tough, you asked me the question, so I got to pick one.
You know why my dad loved Larry Bird? I mean, multitude of reasons, but you know what the number one reason was? And he always said it when we were kids, why he loved Larry Bird the most.
Because he let people watch him mow his lawn?
Close. That was number 3 on the list. Yeah. Number 1 was he also only ate wedding cake for cake, which is hilarious because he said if you're going to eat cake, you might as well have the best. Another good
no way.
But no, the number 1 reason why the Bulldozer loves Larry Bird is because he made his teammates better. And that's like the ultimate, to him, that is the ultimate compliment you can give any athlete. Makes the people around him better players. Not saying that Josh Hoover doesn't do that, but when you look at Sawyer, his top 5 pass catchers this year have at least 160 yards. And when we looked at it last week, Arizona State had one guy with 100 receiving yards on the season. Sawyer's got his top 5 all over 160. And we saw that last year too. It's one of the reasons why I think he's better than Drew Auer. He just unleashes guys. Part of that's the system, sure. But he makes receivers better when he's on his game. And most of the time
I agree. I think Rocco Becht is underrated in that grouping too.
I'm Baron Morton. Come on.
Look, I
actually think the rest of this is fairly good.
I think it's a pretty good list, to be honest. And you know what? Honestly, it makes me really appreciate the talent in the Big 12. We talk about it all the time and we beat it up. But like Bear Bachmeier, like on Friday night or Saturday night, that's going to be an ESPN game at 10:15 Eastern time against Colorado. A lot of people will be watching. They're ranked 25th in the country. Like if he has a big game, I'm telling you, he catapults to like 4 on this list. Like he's been sensational in a short
4
time.
or 7, one of those for sure.
4 or 7. You get what I'm saying? Yeah.
I don't have the problem with him wearing a fullback's number in a vacuum.
Do. I mean,
but what I don't like, Pete, is that it's a really ugly number. If he wore 45, I'm fine.
No, that is honestly, I wish somebody would have stopped that just for my own mental health. I'm not crazy about that. I'm just not crazy about it. I'm sorry, and that's like I'm a stick in the mud. I like position guys being able to wear, number 1 or defensive lineman wearing number 1 in the NFL. Obviously, that's new. College has been a while. In the NFL, it's awesome because it's easier to differentiate who caught the touchdown. As to if you see a number one, it's not like, okay, there's 9 guys wearing 80 something playing wide receiver.
For sure.
Yeah.
How would you feel about how do you feel about Doug Flutie 22?
It was the USFL. It was neat,
I meant at BC, won the Heisman wearing number 22.
Yeah, what am I talking about? That was
Pete's it was a different time.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. I was never crazy about that then. It was odd to me then as a little kid. And there was Doug Flutie was a huge deal in my house, and the guy who caught the touchdown, Gerard Phelan, was a Radnor. He's from Radnor Township, where I grew up.
Really?
Yeah. By the way,
he wore number 20. Yeah.
Yeah. Huh? Yeah.
He wore number 20. It was a more reasonable number. Yeah. Anyway,
I'll pass on my next point.
Okay. All right. No Gerard Phelan.
No extra
time. Anyway, we've got to talk about, because Baylor fans are going to suddenly have to root for the team that just beat them last week. Let's go through the biggest games of the Big 12. Let's do it next on Locked On Baylor. But first, DoorDash, one I use quite a bit. They're a proud sponsor of the Locked On Podcast Network and today's episode of Locked On Baylor, because it's almost the weekend. I can taste it. It's time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order, this player delivered when it mattered the most. Let's break it down. For yours, mine, our Baylor Bears, I am going to go with our old pal Bryson Washington on this one. As I said, man, the numbers are still pretty good. He rushed for 111 yards, 6.5 yards a carry. It's probably the best that Baylor had established the run this year. And obviously that unbelievable 41-yard run that sets up the game-tying touchdown. Just fantastic stuff. When the pressure was on, even though he probably should be having more space with which to run, Bryson Washington came through. And you guys know that performance wasn't a fluke. He's on a streak. Just like Bryson Washington delivered for the Bears, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. And with DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday you order. If you stack it up all season, you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. So order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day with DoorDash. You're also going to need the energy to get through this entire week of college football, which we're about to talk about to you in just a second. That's why you need 5-Hour Energy as well. Caffeine just got a flavor upgrade. 5-Hour Energy shots deliver tasty caffeine in 17 bold flavors. Each 2-ounce shot packs the caffeine of a premium 12-ounce cup of coffee, plus B vitamins and nutrients with 0 sugars and 0 crashes. And what I love, they're so portable. You can bring it in your carry-on. I absolutely love that. Enough with the boring, flavorless caffeine. It's time to give your caffeine a flavor upgrade with 5-Hour Energy shots. Get the favorites you love, or be bold and try something new in-store and online at www.5hourenergy.com, or you can go to Amazon and find it today.
Wow, the going is good and Locked On, huh? I mean, I thought we were going to have to sit through one more read there.
Pretty good, Pete. Look, keeps the lights on.
I guess so, man. Keeps them nice and bright.
We've talked a lot about Josh Hoover in that last segment, and suddenly we get the biggest game of the weekend, potentially the Big 12, on a Friday night, man.
Tim Brando.
Loving that.
Uncle
Tim. Got it. That's Arizona State and TCU right after Arizona State knocks off Baylor. All of a sudden, Bears fans got to root for them this weekend, because obviously you want to root against TCU. But also, that could be big when it comes to the Big 12 championship race. Obviously, it would make Arizona State a very impressive 2-0 in the conference, but it could give Baylor a bit of a lifeline to see TCU slip up. That's 8 p.m. Central Time on Fox. You said it, Tim Brando. Probably the game of the weekend for me, Pete. How do you see that shaking out?
Well, I really like Arizona State. Because they're at home, right? Like, that's one reason to like Arizona State. I think every other reason has me move towards TCU. Okay. I feel like Arizona State, what they've shown me so far, unfortunately for Baylor fans, I don't think they're great. Right now, that loss looks better than it will in late November. And that might be hard for some people to hear, but it's true. And even still, with that being said, I'm still exactly where I was when we started the show on Dave Aranda and Baylor's future. But
because to interject real quick, because I think this will back up your point. We talked last week, and you were talking about Sam Leavitt and how much he gets out of the pocket and how that's actually hurting their passing game.
Yes.
And again, I didn't see any improvement really in that passing game. They don't look like a team that can pass when they need to. I mean, they come up with a 2-minute drive and they're good at that. There's a penalty in there that helps, but they did nothing in that game for me to be like, damn, Sam Levitt's back to where Sam Levitt was last year, and here we go.
No, and you could say that, and this is football, and this is why teams are good and bad. Don't get me wrong, turnover is a huge part of it. But Josh Cameron fumbling twice, like that's just never going to happen.
It's not going to happen again. Yeah.
No, it was kind of a wild night and a wild set of circumstances. So all that being said, I think TCU is really on the come up this year, and I don't think they'll win big. I think it'll be a close game, and I think it'll be a really exciting game, and I think that comes with Josh Hoover. And I think that this is an opportunity for TCU to really plant the flag, or their flag, atop the Big 12 in front of a national TV audience. And again, I'm a shill sometimes, but like, good for the Big 12, dude. Every time you turn around, you really can't dodge them. There's another huge game being played on national TV that my mom can find easily. Like, there's something to be said for that, dude. And Brett Yormark has delivered that. But I like TCU on this game. I do. I like TCU.
I mean, I never put I like TCU together, those words together in a sentence, but they have more firepower in this one. It's tough for me to bet against them on this one. The other big one, obviously there's all kinds of intrigue around this conference, but the other one that I'm like, okay, potential conference championship kind of implications. Arizona at Iowa State. Now, Arizona came into this year not supposed to be good because they weren't very good last year. But they kind of knock Kansas State around like a rag doll. And who doesn't do that these days? But does that do enough for you that you're like, hey, maybe they can give Iowa State a game? It's in Ames.
Yeah, it's in Ames. Honestly, I was surprised to see Iowa State at home playing Arizona, and the number was 5.5, which I think speaks to Arizona really having an opportunity to win the game. Their defense has been way better than anybody thought Arizona's had. The problem is with Iowa State is they're coming off a bye, and they have a great coaching staff, and they have a great quarterback who is, I talked to Anthony Beck this week on my show, and he was like, I asked him, and this was kind of frustrating as a host, but he gave an amazing answer that speaks to that program. I was like, dude, how high can this team fly this year? Speaking of Iowa State. And he said, dude, nobody's looking past Arizona. And he started to talk to me about his son and just the work he does and the relationship he has with Taylor Mauser, their offensive coordinator. And I do think that while Iowa State's not going to go out there and blow the doors off people consistently this year, I do think they're the kind of team that finds a way to win. So regardless of whether this is close or whether Arizona covers, it's not a game that if Arizona won, I would be shocked. I would, because since the beginning of last year, they have not proven to be a dangerous team in the conference, right? Like, unfortunately for them, right now, Kansas State, we all see them as down. So, but if Arizona can win this game, right, all of a sudden you're like, whoa, that's a huge deal. But I have nothing based on what they've done that makes me believe that they will. And I have everything based on what Iowa State has done and where they're headed to believe that they will win this football game. And I don't think it'll be close, but I think there's a lot of unknowns with Arizona that maybe they can surprise us. I mean, their defense, it's not Desert Swarm like it was with Pat Toomey or Dick Toomey when I was growing up, but man, it's good. Yeah. Teddy Bruschi, dude, it was amazing. It was amazing, dude. That defense was so cool. And yeah, they were on. I think they were on the cover of Sports Illustrated.
Yeah,
Desert Swarm thing, that was so cool.
I believe that Desert Swarm defense did lose in the Sun Bowl in Grant Paff's last game.
No kidding.
I think that's right.
Yeah, they were way overhyped, like as a team, but it was a lot of fun, like that. It's
a great nickname, man. It's a great nickname. By the way, I think Taylor Mauser's going to get some looks this offseason, not as a head coach, but as an offensive coordinator in one of the Big Two conferences.
I can see him getting looks as a head coach.
He might, man. And he's got the energy for it. Like, that is something we got to take into account. You see any of that behind the scenes stuff with Iowa State, man. He's got a lot of energy to him.
Here's another thing too. I think like younger coaches like him, it was funny. I watched, and I would recommend people to watch it. It's good. This is SEC, but the Lane Kiffin documentary on ESPN is very good. And, part of his thing was being just a young, hot coach, right? Back in the day. Mm-hmm. And I think that was in vogue back then, and I think it's really back in vogue now, especially in college football, because we're seeing guys either retire or get phased out. Older coaches like Mike Gundy, the most recent example of somebody who's been phased out, right? And Nick Saban, a recent example of somebody walking away. And I think you want a young coach who's willing to work his ass off and do the stuff we were talking about that Joey Maguire does. Now, he might be a little bit on the older side, but more often than not, to wrap your mind and your arms around this new style and this new college football situation and look, you're going to want Taylor Mauser. Mm-hmm. You're not going to want a retread. Like, so that's why a guy like that, I think, is more apt to get looks now than he was 5 years ago.
And then there's the great in between and the Venn diagram, Kliff Kingsbury. Still young, but still a retread. You know, there's still
but he's
a little bit of overlap.
You know, do you know that's a great dude, Cam? That is a great coaching candidate. I like, especially now, like the way things have changed. Maybe what he was missing before, he can compensate now with his charm and his pizzazz.
Yeah, but he feels he's closer to an NFL head coaching job.
Yeah, I mean,
I think that's what. But who knows? I mean, he also, I don't know. But
imagine Kliff Kingsbury going to Oklahoma State. That would be pretty cool.
I think it should. I think it's probably worth kicking the tires if you're Oklahoma State.
Yeah, like right now, the guy, the hot name is the guy who's a defensive coordinator or offensive coordinator in Atlanta. I should know this, but that's the guy who I think he's an Oklahoma State product. That's the guy who they're kind of focusing in on.
Jack Robinson.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
The old quarterback. Yep.
Yeah, so it's Jeff Robinson is a guy who, and again, same type deal. You're telling me he's a better coach than Kliff Kingsbury?
It's Oklahoma State guy though.
Yeah,
I did see something. We got to wrap this up, but I did see something yesterday. It was a guy who's a content creator now. I'm not familiar, unfortunately. He played quarterback at USC, and he did. He played for like 5 different head coaches there. One of them was Lane Kiffin, and he was. Like,
I know this guy. He's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was like, it might be some crazy for some of you to think back now, but Lane Kiffin was like the most serious dude in the room. Like he was not. He had no outward personality, and it's like, yeah, I do remember that. From the Tennessee days at USC and the Raiders. Like he was the hotshot wunderkind who had no personality. He was like dry as a bone.
Yes.
And
his dad was the one that had all the charisma and stuff.
Yeah. And he just cut loose one day, clearly.
That documentary, honestly, one of the things he did, like he stopped drinking. And they put that in, like it really changed. Like I think it lightened the load for him, just like he stopped taking stuff so seriously. But he also like that documentary, I'm not lying, and maybe it's because I'm a college football sicko and a documentary sicko. That could have been 10 episodes. It was an hour, and it was not long enough. You could do a year on the Raiders, a year on how he left Tennessee, a year on how he got fired. Dude, the USC, how he got fired story, we don't have the time to tell it now. I would urge everyone to either look that up or watch the documentary. It's really – Paul Feinbaum called it the most bizarre situation he's ever experienced in college football.
It was odd. I remember it happening in real time. It was very, very weird.
Yeah,
before we get out of here, though –
how Lane describes it is crazier.
Yeah. Yeah. Before we get out of here, we got to get some trivia, Pete, because I've told everyone about how you were about to yell out the wrong answer last week.
But I was basically right.
Okay, you weren't right, but you were a year off.
Right conference.
Chronologically, yes. Well, the question was about the conference, but yeah. The question is this. In the 2021 TCU game, Jerry Kill was the interim head coach after Gary Patterson was fired, famously upsetting Baylor. But who was TCU's offensive coordinator during that game? And the hint is he later did become a Big 12 head coach. Of course, you guys know, first one to get it right in the comment section or tweeting at us at Locked On Baylor gets the shout out in the next episode. I do have to get from on Wednesday's show. Once again, A. Martin TX 777 came through with the second one in a week here. I think he got the Ty Detmer one that you didn't get, Pete. And the question was, who was the last Oklahoma State coach not named Mike Gundy to beat Baylor? Pete, do you know that one?
Pat Jones.
No.
What?
Later went on to coach a different team in the Big 12.
Oh, Jimmy Johnson. No, that's wrong. Okay. I knew that was wrong.
Won a national championship in the SEC.
It's not Urban Meyer.
No.
Who is it?
Les Miles. Les Miles was the last one to do it back in 2004. So shout out to A. Martin.
Shout out to you for the trivia. Is this your idea?
No, someone else at Locked On was doing it as a way to keep people. Well, I won't tell you why. But I love it because it's right up my alley, and so I want to do it. So,
awesome.
So first one to get it in the comments. OC.
These are hard questions too. I like it. So I like it. These are not easy.
Like these, yeah. Like I don't have 20 people getting it right, which is kind of what I want. I want it to be a thinker. Anyway, Pete, thank you so much for joining. I'm loving this Friday Pete Sousa stuff. This is fantastic. Let us know, guys, what your score prediction is in the comment section below. Then be sure to like, subscribe, help us get to 5,000 subscribers. We're trying to hit that by the end of the football season, and we are well on our way.
Take it easy on Dave Aranda. All right, everybody take it easy. It's been 4 games into the season. You mentioned it, Cam. The guy's won 9 of his last 11 or 8 of his last 11. Let's just all settle down.
I'm a libertarian. Do whatever you want to do as long as it's not hurting people. We will see you after you like and subscribe. We will see you on the post-game edition of your favorite show, Locked On Baylor.